Welcome to a night of total terror. Night of the Living Dead.
Night of the Living Dead is a seminal film in the horror genre, directed by George A. Romero and released in the year 1968. This low-budget independent film has had a profound impact on the horror genre and popular culture as a whole, influencing countless filmmakers and spawning an entire subgenre of zombie films. The film follows a group of strangers who are trapped in a farmhouse in rural Pennsylvania as the ghouls begin to prey on the living. The story unfolds primarily within the confines of the farmhouse, creating a sense of claustrophobia and isolation that adds to the tension and horror of the situation. The characters must band together to survive the night, facing not only the undead outside, but also their own fears. The characters in the film include Ben, played by Duane Jones, Barbara, played by Judith O'Day, Harry Cooper, played by Karl Hardman, Helen Cooper, played by Marilyn Eastman, Tom, played by Keith Wayne, and Judy, played by Judith Ridley. Ben is the film's protagonist and the leader of the group of survivors taking refuge in the farmhouse. He is resourceful and determined to survive against the onslaught of the undead. Ben's leadership is challenged by other characters throughout the film, particularly Harry Cooper, but Ben still stands his ground as a strong character who attempts to keep everyone safe.
You can be the boss down there. I'm boss up here.
Barbara, on the other hand, is portrayed as timid and fragile, overwhelmed by the horrors unfolding around her. After witnessing her brother Johnny being attacked and eventually killed at the hands of a ghoul at their arrival at a cemetery early in the film, she becomes catatonic and largely unresponsive.
Look, I don't know if you're hearing me, but I'm going upstairs now. If anything should try to break in here, I can hear it from up there. I'll be down to take care of it. Everything is all right for now. I'll be back to reinforce the windows and doors later. But you'll be all right for now, okay? Okay.
I have to be honest, Barbara is my least favourite character in the film. Harry Cooper is a middle-aged man who, like everyone else, seeks refuge in the farmhouse with his wife and daughter. He is more pessimistic and self-serving than Ben, often putting his own interests above those of the group. Harry clashes with Ben over their differing approaches to survival, leading to tension and conflict within the group.
But down there with no windows, if a rescue party did come, we wouldn't even know it.
But the cellar is the strongest place.
The cellar is a death trap.
You're crazy. Those things are going to be at every window and door in this place. We've got to get down into the cellar.
Go down in your damn cellar. Get out of here!
You better watch this and try to understand what's going on. I don't want anyone's life on my hands.
Is there anything I can do to
I don't want to hear any more from you, mister. If you stay up here, you take orders from me. And that includes leaving the girl alone.
Helen Cooper is caught in the middle of the power struggle between Ben and Harry, torn between loyalty to her husband and the need for collective action to survive. Despite her initial passivity, Helen demonstrates resilience and resourcefulness as the situation becomes increasingly dire. Fun fact for those who didn't know, Marilyn Eastman can also be seen as a ghoul in this movie. She's this one right here. Tom is a young man who arrives at the farmhouse with his girlfriend Judy, seeking refuge from the ghouls outside. He is initially portrayed as impulsive and hot-headed, but he ultimately proves himself to be a vulnerable ally to Ben and the others. Tom's bravery and willingness to take risks help to bolster the group's chances of survival. And finally we have Judy, who is Tom's girlfriend. She serves as a source of emotional support for Tom throughout the ordeal. She is initially introduced as a somewhat passive character, but she demonstrates courage and resilience when faced with the threat of the undead. Judy's presence helps to humanize the group and highlight their relationships and vulnerabilities. One of the most striking aspects of Night of the Living Dead is its social commentary. Released during a tumultuous time in American history, the film reflects the anxieties and tensions of the late 1960s. The Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam War, and the Cold War all loomed large in the public consciousness, and Romero uses the backdrop of a zombie apocalypse to explore themes of racism, violence, and societal breakdown. The character Ben, played by Duane Jones, is particularly notable in this regard. As an African-American man taking charge in a predominantly white group, Ben challenges traditional stereotypes and expectations. His leadership and resourcefulness are evident throughout the film, yet his efforts are often met with resistance and hostility from the other characters. This dynamic serves as a commentary on the racial tensions of the time and unfortunately remains relevant today. In addition to its social commentary, Night of the Living Dead is also notable for its groundbreaking portrayal of zombies. Prior to this film, zombies were typically depicted as mindless controlled beings by outside forces such as voodoo or hypnotism. This was seen in such movies as White Zombie, released in the year 1932, and the film The Plague of the Zombies, released in the year 1966 by Hammer Film Studios. Romero's zombies, however, are reanimated corpses driven by a hunger for human flesh. This concept revolutionized the zombie genre and laid the groundwork for countless zombie films and zombie television shows to come. The film's gritty black and white cinematography adds to its sense of realism and dread. Shot on a shoestring budget with amateur actors, Night of the Living Dead has a raw and visceral quality that sets it apart from more polished Hollywood productions. The grainy documentary-style footage lends the film a sense of immediacy, making the horrors unfolding on screen feel all the more terrifying and believable. And for those who are not so keen on black and white movies, Night of the Living Dead was re-released on DVD in colour. I have to say, it's a pretty good transfer. I do like the coloured version, but the original black and white version certainly adds more atmosphere and an eerie mood to the film as a whole. Furthermore, the film's use of practical effects and makeup is highly effective, particularly considering the limitations of the time and budget. The makeup on the ghouls in Night of the Living Dead are very basic, mainly paled faces, but some do show signs of decayed flesh and blood. One of the standout ghouls in the movie is the cemetery ghoul played by the late Bill Heinzman. He's the first on-screen modern zombie. Heinzman even brought his character back to life, pun intended, in the year 1988 with his own movie titled Flesh Eater: Revenge of the Living Dead. This is a low-budget zombie film filled with gore, nudity, and it's just a really fun time and gets overlooked by other zombie films. It's a lot of fun, although the acting is hokey and sometimes bad dialogue gets in the way, but I don't think it should go amiss. It will definitely get a review in time. This wouldn't be the last time he played the same zombie. For the 30th anniversary release of Night of the Living Dead, extra scenes were shot for the film, and Bill Heinzman reprised his role as the cemetery ghoul. In Night of the Living Dead, the iconic image of the undead reaching through windows and pounding on doors has become ingrained in pop culture and has certainly carried through to other zombie movies, which is a testament to Night of the Living Dead's lasting impact. Beyond its immediate impact, Night of the Living Dead has had a lasting legacy that continues to reverberate throughout the whole horror genre. Its success paved the way for sequels, remakes and spin-offs, solidifying its place in not only horror cinema, but also cinematic history. Romero himself went on to direct several more zombie films, including the highly acclaimed Dawn of the Dead and its sequel, Day of the Dead. He would also go on to direct 3 more Dead movies, Land of the Dead, Diary of the Dead and Survival of the Dead, further cementing his status as a master of horror. In 1990, special effects artist Tom Savini had the chance to direct his own version of Night of the Living Dead.
The man's insane. He's insane.
The majority of the original crew worked on Savini's version, including Romero himself.
I approached him about doing the makeup for his Night of the Living Dead. He was so busy, I was following him around the studio, flipping pages of my portfolio. He says, "Yeah, man, we could use you." Unfortunately, they called me to go in the Army right before George shot Night of the Living Dead. So when he did that, I was in Vietnam. I remember him coming to me and saying, "We're going to remake Night of the Living Dead." And I'm thinking, oh great, finally I get to do the effects in George's remake of Night of the Living Dead. He says, "And I want you to direct it."
George felt, and he had enough confidence in Tom Savini to let that be his feature film directorial debut.
George A. Romero said that the remake came about in part because of the issues over profits of the original film.
It was also an opportunity for the original people involved to finally make some money off the title Night of the Living Dead.
Since the print of the original movie didn't have any copyright notice on it, it was released in the public domain.
The print arrived in Pittsburgh for our premiere screening in October of 1968, and lo and behold, there was no copyright notice on it. It was a wonderful and a terrible standing on our feet education about the movie business. It's great that the first movie you do becomes a classic. It was terrible that none of us saw anywhere near what we knew the kind of business that it was doing. It was just unconscionable.
In the case of the 1990 remake, I actually think it's a much better film than the original. The plot remains the same with a few minor changes, one of the biggest being of the character Barbara, who is now a strong female lead. It's a worthy remake, and I'm sure it will get its own review sometime down the line. And if that wasn't enough for you Night of the Living Dead fans, Warner Bros. Entertainment released an animated version of Night of the Living Dead, titled Night of the Animated Dead. This was a film that no one saw coming, and to be honest, it's actually pretty decent. I enjoyed it for what it was. The plot remains the same, but the gore is certainly ramped up, especially in one scene which was drastically changed, including Tom and Judy. After watching the film, it made me want to see more of my favourite zombie films animated. I've done a review of the film, so feel free to check that out. But in conclusion, the original Night of the Living Dead is a landmark film that has left an indelible mark on the horror genre and popular culture as a whole. Its innovative approach to storytelling, social commentary and visual style continues to inspire filmmakers and entertain audiences more than 5 decades after its release. George A. Romero's vision and creativity have ensured that Night of the Living Dead remains a timeless classic and a must-see for horror fans everywhere.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.